In this video we're making a wire wrapped double point with a cute little spiral design. My crystal points are aquamarine and they're about 3.5 centimeters long with a top drilled hole. For this design here we need about 11 inches of the 20 gauge dead soft silver wire. So I just start out by measuring that out and cutting it to length. Then we can pop our top drilled crystal onto the wire and we're going to measure this part here. So I just measure in 2.5 inches from the end. Then we can bend the wires upwards to lock that crystal in place in that position. Bringing the wires across each other at the point at the top there. And this is where we're going to secure our bail. With these wires crossing over the top there, then I'm going to grab my little round nose pliers and pop them onto this shorter wire right at the base where they cross over. Then we're going to bring this shorter wire around our round nose pliers. I like to bring it around the round nose pliers 2 times to create 2 full loops for a nice strong bail. Adjusting your pliers as you go so that you can bring the wire around. When you've got your 2 full loops there, we're going to bring this shorter tail around both of the wires there where they cross over. You want to hold on to it nice and securely while you do this, so I just use 1 set of pliers to hold on to the bail. Then with another set of pliers I bring that tail around both of the wires there in between the bail and the crystal to secure it nice and tight. Wrapping it around a couple of times and then crimping it down nice and tight. Your crystal point should be secure in your wire wrap now, so you can take some time with your pliers to straighten up your wires. Work with them just to make sure that that bail is sitting directly over the top of your crystal point and your bail loops are nice and round and sitting together nicely. Then we can focus on this other long wire and we're going to bring it downwards and start to form our spirals with it. I just bend it downwards and then I hold on to it really firmly with my left hand and my left thumb, putting pressure on the wire there against the crystal. Keeping that pressure on with your left thumb, then with your right hand you can just start bringing this wire around to form a nice tight little circle. Keeping that pressure on against the crystal, pulling the wire around nice and tight. This little circle here is going to be the inside of the spiral, so we want to just pull on that wire a bit and make sure that that circle is really nice and small. It does take a little bit of maneuvering to get it in the right position, but now we're going to hold that little circle on with pressure and bring the wire around so that it's sitting flat on the outside of our circle and it's going to form our first little spiral there. You want to make sure there's enough pressure on the crystal that when you're bringing it around it's coming flat, and it also needs to be nice and tight, so you might need to use your pliers just to bring it up right next to the wire so that it's forming a nice tight spiral there. When you're happy with the size of your spiral there, we need to just bring this wire down off the bottom side of the spiral so that we can wrap it around our crystal there. You want this wire coming off the bottom of your spiral about level with the drilled hole, and then you can bring it around the whole crystal. So I just bring that around 2 full loops. Make sure you're pulling it nice and tight, and then back to the front where you're going to make your next spiral. Once you've wrapped around your crystal 2 times and your wire is back at the front, we're going to work on our second spiral. This one is different from the first one because we're working from the end of the wire. My wire tail that I've got coming off is a little bit long for my spiral, so probably only need about 1.5 inches off the crystal there. So I'm just cutting that a bit shorter. Then we start to form our spiral by just grabbing the very end of our wire and bending it inwards around on itself, where we're going to start to form a really nice tiny spiral there. Trying to get it as small as you can. Then with this little tip here, I just bend it in a downwards direction. So it's actually going to go underneath. But that gives you a little something to hold on to with your pliers while you form your nice tight spiral. The little tail is just for you to hold on to while you spin it, and then after you're going to cut the little tail off. So I'm just forming it into a spiral, but that very tip has just gone underneath the spiral. Now that's what I have to grab onto. So just with my round nose pliers on the very tip of them, I can grab that very end of the wire there and start to form the spiral around. Just moving the wire around itself really gently, forming it into that spiral shape while you're holding on to that little piece underneath. You want your spiral to be nice and flat and tight, so gently working around with pressure, but gently trying to keep it around itself. Slowly just working with your wire and maneuvering it until it's in a position where it's sitting even with that first spiral that you made and sitting in the position that you want it. Once you've got your spiral down nice and tight, you can actually snip that little piece of wire underneath off, so it's not going to get in the way of your spiral, and then you can just work your spiral to be sitting down flat on your crystal point as well. Just working with your pliers and your wire a little bit just to get the wires into position, into how you like them, because you want that second spiral sitting directly underneath your first spiral. At this point I like to just turn my bail around sideways so that when you pop it onto a chain, the chain is going to go through and your crystal point is going to sit with the spirals at the front. Just with your pliers, bringing that bail around 90 degrees so that it sits nicely sideways. And there's your wire wrapped crystal point with the spiral design.